Arthur's the CEO of his own family office called Maelstrom, but to me, you're like an OG, Arthur. So when did you discover Bitcoin?
I discovered Bitcoin in May 2013.
Okay, see if we can close those doors so we don't have that back traffic thing.
Yeah,
May
2013.
2013.
Bitcoin was about $200, I think, when I first read a post on Zero Hedge about it, and I started trading it in my own PA. I just lost my job, so I was like, oh, fuck it, let me trade some crypto. Read the white paper. Really.
What were you doing? What job did you lose?
I was an exchange traded fund market maker at Citibank in Hong Kong. So made markets on the stock exchange.
So you're looking at this thing that's very hard to buy. It's an obscure thing. It's trading at $200, and you say to yourself, what, this is going to be worth $100,000 someday? No, you don't say that, do you? Or do you?
I'm an arbitrage guy, so I never actually took a position on it. I basically scoured the earth of all crypto exchanges back in 2013, and I wanted to learn how do you short it, how do you go long, other options, other futures. And I found this small exchange run by these two dudes who I've met one of them in real life, 12 years on. It was called ICBit. These random dudes who were living in the Caribbean, didn't know who they were, and they had this futures exchange, the first one in crypto. And you could sell a futures contract for like a 200% per annum return versus the spot. I was like, okay, I did this all day at work, every day. You know, you make 1 basis point, and you're like a hero. I'm making 200. And all I do is I sell the future, I buy Bitcoin. I sent some money to mt.gox. I bought my first Bitcoin. I sold some futures contracts. I had a spreadsheet, calculated my P&L, rolled it, made exactly how much money I thought. Like, wow, this is really cool. And that was sort of my intro into Bitcoin.
So you start out as an arbitrage. So I'm going to describe you then early stage, traditional finance. You saw an opportunity, very large spread. You took advantage of it, but then you transitioned to a long-term holder of Bitcoin.
Yeah, so basically...
When did you do that?
You know, trading's hard. And when you're making money that easily, you know that that's going to change and go away at some point. And I thought, well, how do I have a real business, a real lifestyle here in crypto? Why don't I build a better exchange than the one I'm trading on? I thought I could do a better job. And so I came up with an idea of starting a derivatives exchange and how I would change what they were doing. And I went out through my network in Hong Kong, and I found 2 other co-founders who can build trading systems and high-performance web applications. They were into crypto. I sold them an idea of like, let's just do derivatives, fuck spot, we're not going to do that, it's too hard. We're just going to do this derivatives thing, we're going to charge money for it. And convinced them to start BitMEX with me. And that was in late 2013, and we sat down and started building in Hong Kong in early 2014.
Okay, but along the way, because you have a macro bent to your personality, because I follow your blogs and I follow your writings, along the way, you are flashing warning signals about the fiat currency system in the world. And so what are those warning signals? What do you tell people about fiat currency system in general?
Go ahead, look at your pay stub from, pick a date, I don't know, 10 years ago, whatever. See how much you get paid. How much is it today? How much has your house gone up? Or, how much has a latte gone up? And pick your major financial center. And most likely, you probably found out that your salary did not keep pace with the things that you spend your money on, irrespective of what some manipulated inflation statistic tells you from a government. Most people understand that if I own a salary, and maybe they don't understand how it works, but all the things that I spend my money on have gone up, by a number of X's, whether it's education or healthcare or housing costs or, specific types of food, travel, whatever, right? And so that is the same thing. So how do you correct that? Well, you can't sit in your job and make a salary. That's not gonna do it. Here's this crypto thing. If you look at Bitcoin from 2010 onwards, it's been the best performing asset in this global fiat debasement trade that we've been living through for the past 15 odd years. And that is the whole story. End of story, right? Okay, what are you gonna do now? I've got you make $1, you have $1 of savings. Everybody intrinsically understands that there will be no recessions are outlawed. If a bank goes bust, they get bailed out. And so then what do you buy? Do you buy a bond? Do you buy equities? Do you buy gold? Do you buy real estate? Do you buy crypto, right? So I think everyone intrinsically understands what's going on. It's just people choose different things to try to solve the problem.
So let's say I put you in charge. You were the central bank head of all fiat currency systems. I'm trying not to laugh that hard at this job, but here's the job. How would you fix it? Is it fixable? Or is it not fixable? Are we on a slow train, or nothing stops this train?
It's fixable if you don't want to get reelected. If you want to get reelected, it's not fixable.
Okay.
So if you want to, fix it and not have another term as central bank governor or XYZ politician, then you stop printing any money, you sell all the bonds on a central bank balance sheet, you let a bunch of over-leveraged businesses collapse, the creditors of the bank get the keys to the bank, and a bunch of people lose their jobs, right? Because a lot of people are involved in businesses that need credit.
You touch off a little bit of deflation then,
Yeah,
right?
a massive deflationary 1930s style collapse globally, and then you rebuild from there.
Right, so no one's going to do that, right? Or,
Exactly.
okay, so why then is Bitcoin important? Because again, you may have missed this earlier conversation. I was here with 𝐲𝐬𝐬𝐫 telling him that I have 60-year-old friends of mine that hate Bitcoin. We have one CEO that once called it I think he called it a pet rock. I think he's called it a digital Ponzi scheme. Why is Bitcoin so important?
Protect your money, right? I think in the United States, you couldn't own gold until 1974. I think in the UK, it was the early 90s when you could own gold again. So it's only been very recently that people have even had the option of gold, the old school debasement trade, systemic collapse protecting instrument. People took that away during the war because they wanted to print a bunch of money to finance the buildup of the military. And they said, no, we can't have gold. Here are some shitty stocks. Most of them did not outperform inflation or the amount of money created if you look at it. We're going to take away the gold option. Now we have these computers, and whoever Satoshi they are, created another way, apart from gold, to express the same view. Anyone with an internet connection can own this thing and say, there's too much money being printed, I'm going to own this, and it should outperform because it's got a fixed supply versus an infinite debasement.
So why would it, we have a lot of Europeans in the room, why would it be important for Europeans to own Bitcoin?
Because I think I got on stage a few months ago talking about how France is going to leave the euro and capital controls are coming. And I was in Saint-Moritz earlier this year, giving a similar sort of speech about capital controls are coming. And I think for Europeans, unfortunately, because the political elite are devoted to Europe, trademark, whatever that means, they're going to do whatever they can to keep the euro alive. It's a fatally flawed system, but that means that your retirement account is not yours. That's going to eventually fund some government bond. Your bank account is not yours. You'll get bailed in and have to bail out whatever local banking system. You're going to be restricted from buying certain types of digital assets. There won't be crypto exchanges around, but there are now. And so I think it's important for Europeans because the authorities are telling people exactly what they're going to do. They're going to take away your ability to express what you like to do with your retirement funds. They're going to take away the choice that you have in banking, and it's all going to be funneled to funding the government. And so the only way to escape that is get some digital currency, put it in your own wallet, and sidestep that system. If you have dollars, I see you have euros in your bank, and a few years from now you can't do anything about it, but today you can do something about it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is that we have been generally drunk driving with our fiat currency, right? We're reckless with our fiat currency.
Like every single government ever in human history.
Every single government, and fiat currencies debase. They print more money to try to solve governmental imbalances. It's a pernicious form of taxation. It's very regressive. That's why you have the systemic rise of populism. But you said something that I believe, because we both are in this industry. Fixed exchange rate mechanisms always die, right? Is the euro a fixed exchange rate mechanism?
Kinda. It's a straitjacket on Germany, and then France prints a bunch of money, and then they call it the euro. So
okay, but you're basically telling me that France is upside down on its finances, so it's going to need to leave the euro so that it can.
Or threaten, and then the ECB's got to force on this day, print some money. I don't know, kill some politicians or whatever Lagarde wants to do, and that means that. Even in domestic French politics, they're going to say, okay, well, if you own foreign bonds if you own bonds or equities and you're a foreigner, that's mine. If you have a euro deposit in SocGen or BNP, well, guess what? You can't leave France. You can't buy crypto. You can't buy gold. You can't buy U.S. equities. You can't buy Tesla, whatever, right? You can only buy French companies or the companies that we, the government, tell you that you can buy. And that's coming. And if you listen to the speeches, they tell you exactly what they're going to do. They might not be able to do it yet. But anyone who has 2 cents and and cares about their capital, crypto is one option. Even if you don't end up in Bitcoin, you can buy Bitcoin first and get somewhere else.
So the most compelling, or I mean, the thing that won me over with Bitcoin is that it's because we trust the network. We don't have to trust any central authority. We don't have to trust any banks. We've sort of taken the drunk driving keys away from the drunk drivers, and we've created this sort of absolute fixed supply entity where we could store our money safely without risk of devaluation. Do I have that right?
We don't even have to trust the network. There's a set of rules. It's game theory. Everyone's profit maximizing or utility maximizing, and we all engage in this game, and the output is an immutable blockchain and this currency called Bitcoin. You don't have to trust it. You can verify it cryptographically over time that there's only 21 million Bitcoin that would be produced. No one is double spent. Nobody can 51% attack the network. These are all things you can mathematically prove. You should never have to trust anyone, and that's the whole point. Now, there's reasons why you would want to trust centralized institutions, but in some cases you don't want to trust them with your money. You just want to say, okay, well, I believe in this math and I can verify it, so I'm going to part of my savings in this.
So what's the risk to Bitcoin then?
That everyone wakes up and the politicians decide that they're going to restrict credit and allow the system to reset. And then it'd be interesting to see what the value of Bitcoin is. Because it's pretty much, if you take a line of pick your favorite central bank balance sheet from 2010 to the present, pretty much plots the price of Bitcoin. So if, for whatever reason, the voters around the world decide we don't like this anymore, or we want to go back to sort of an honest credit system or no credit or a fully reserved banking system, then the price of Bitcoin and fiat units would crash.
Is that ever going to happen?
I don't know. Not anytime soon.
Well, you said to me backstage, if you don't mind me sharing this, you said, the elections matter. The Democrats won 3 elections, and the, less important election day yesterday wasn't a midterm election, but they lost 2 governorships. They lost the largest city to the Democrats. The money printer going to turn on as a result of that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think people misunderstand Trump. Trump doesn't have any ideology. His ideology is winning. And he was one of the most profligate presidents in U.S. history with the COVID stimulus checks. Mm-hmm. So Trump knows socialism. He just doesn't call it socialism. He calls it whatever he wants to call it. S&P goes up or crypto goes up, right? And they put the dirty label socialist on Mamdani and all the other people who are stumping for him. But Democrats and Republicans operate the same program. We print a bunch of money, and if you are on our team, then we give it to you. And then it just depends on who's on which team. And so if the Democrats won elections by saying, I'm going to give you a lot of free shit, and you're not going to pay more taxes for it, or there's a small percentage of people that we're going to charge a bunch of taxes, even though the math will never work that way, then Trump will respond with, whether it's, Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship and pump the housing market, or aggressive bank lending to weapons manufacturers, or whatever it is of, the members of Team Red Republican who need to be greased. He'll grease them to make sure they show up at the polls. And then we'll have a colossal battle in 2026. And who gave out more free shit, that'll be who wins. And that's why I love crypto and Bitcoin, is because I don't have to forecast where it goes.
So free shit is good for Bitcoin.
Right?
Yeah. I like that tagline. I'll probably use that at some point. But it's good for Bitcoin because the printer goes on and the debasement continues, and a result of which people will start to gravitate to something that they know can't be debased.
Yeah, and I like Bitcoin particularly because I don't have to understand where the money is going. So if you take a look at China, MSCI China over the past 20 years has basically been a nothing burger, has not generated any real returns for investors, even though China has printed however many trillions of dollars of credit, has built all these amazing infrastructure projects, but it hasn't flowed through into the shareholder returns. And that's the problem with equities, at least from my perspective. I'm very lazy. I don't want to have to understand which particular sector is the government favoring, or which company, has the granddaughter of XYZ person on the board, therefore they're going to get some money. I just know that Bitcoin in particular responds to, if there's more units of fiat, then Bitcoin goes up more than the amount of money printed because it's a small door with a lot of things trying to go through it.
Any other coins worth it? Any other coins you like?
Obviously, I own all of these, so I'm shilling my bags here. I love Zcash.
Okay.
Privacy. So basically, it's Bitcoin with zero-knowledge proofs attached. It's been around for a while. They've fixed some things, and the price is up, 5x in the last 2 months. There's a new narrative going on about privacy. I love stablecoins. I think that that's going to continue to be a massive driver of crypto adoption, both in DeFi and just people using cryptographic wallets to send value around the world. And we are founding advisors of Athena, which is the third largest stablecoin. They use cash and carry futures arbitrage to sort of create their value. But I think that there will be, basically Tether, Circle, Athena, they're the top three, and they have about $250 billion of circulating supply.
So everybody in this room, whether they're aware of it or not, will likely have a stable coin in their smartphone, in a smart wallet, at some point in the next 3 to 5 years. Is that fair to say?
I think so.
Okay. All right, we've got 3 minutes left. You're raising a $250 million fund to buy small and medium-sized crypto companies. Tell us the vision there, and tell us what you're thinking about.
So basically, I'm sure a lot of you guys are LPs, and maybe some of you aren't in crypto funds. The returns are pretty lackluster, even though these funds do big raises. They're run by very successful VC people, in the traditional Web 2 space. But the problem in crypto is that the best assets are very small, at least in the beginning, and they don't take a lot of money. So you have all these big funds chasing after essentially nothing because there's nothing to buy, and then they buy substandard stuff, and the returns suck. So we thought, well, we know how to actually run companies. I created BitMEX. It's one of the largest exchanges ever in the world, and perpetual swaps and all this sort of things. The other managing partner, Akshat, he worked with me at BitMEX and has been involved in crypto for a long time, buying and selling companies. And we have the best Rolodex of operators in the space. And so our vision is there are a lot of service providers within crypto. They're not the sexiest exchange, but they might be a data service provider or something like that. They might do API connectivity for exchanges. They generate 40, 50% EBITDA margins, $50 to $100 million revenue run rates, and the founders want exits. They've been at the grindstone for many years. We're raising a fund to take them out, professionalize management, put it in a nice wrapper so that a PE fund in London or New York can feel comfortable buying it, or we can SPAC it, or we can do some sort of public markets transaction. So that's sort of the genesis of the fund, and we're kind of the only ones playing in this space right now because you actually have to run a company. This is not just I'm just going to buy something, some token, or buy some project and hold it for a few years, and hopefully I make some money.
So it's sort of it's a little bit like a holding company, right? You're gonna have private companies in this fund that are part of that ecosystem of servicing crypto.
Basically.
Your vision, you've got a minute left. It's 2030. Where do you think Bitcoin is in 2030, and where do you think the industry is going?
So I think my top of the market is 2027, 28 timeframe, aligning with sort of the U.S. presidential election. I don't know who's going to win, but I think that the rhetoric, people will be afraid that the rhetoric will change, and maybe they're not going to print the money. And this could be in the US, could be in Europe, could be all around the world. We're going to have this amazing, I think, 1.5-year run, 2-year run between 2026 and 2028. And then people are going to start to question, maybe we're not going to print as much money.
Is it sustainable?
Yeah. And we have a massive collapse in the markets. And so where we are in 2030, I don't know. I think that's going to be really a question of where is AI?
So what do you think peak prices look like then
I think Bitcoin is million plus. I think Ethereum is 10 to 20,000. And there'll be selective other altcoins that do exceptionally well. S&P, 10,000, NASDAQ, 100,000. I think people are underappreciating the upside on this. And yeah, it's going to suck. Breadth is going to suck. All the measures all the technical analysis folks are going to tell you that this is going to collapse. But I think that the pain trade is higher, not buying puts at ridiculously expensive prices.
But you're saying something interesting that I want to emphasize, though. You think there's a culmination coming. Particularly some of these younger politicians are looking at the roadmap and saying, okay, this isn't sustainable, so they may have to come up with something.
Or try.
Try to change the trajectory.
Whether or not they do it is irrelevant. If investors believe that the forward changes, and then, oh shit, that's really expensive. Why am I paying 100 times PE for this stock? Maybe I shouldn't. And then that's what collapses the bubble.
Okay, well, you're brilliant. I really appreciate you joining us here at SALT London. Ladies and gentlemen, Arthur Hayes, thank you very much.
Thank you.